Fact 1. The dawn of civilization in Mesopotamia, long before the modern world rose with cities of glass and steel. Humanity's first true cities bloomed in the fertile crescent of Mesopotamia, around 4000 BCE. The Sumerians laid the foundations of what we call civilization. They built walled cities such as Uruk, Yor, and Eridu, where organized society first flourished. Mesopotamia's fertile land, nourished by the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, allowed farmers to grow barley, wheat, and dates in abundance. This agricultural surplus supported populations larger than simple villages, and as more people gathered, complex structures emerged. Governments, priesthoods, trade networks, and monumental architecture. The Sumerians invented the world as first known system of writing cuneiform by pressing reed styluses into soft clay tablets. These tablets recorded trade deals, hymns to gods, and even the world's first epic story, the Epic of Gilgamesh. While Mesopotamian life was far from peaceful, with floods and wars constantly reshaping their world, this was the cradle of civilization. Every city that came afterward, from Rome to modern metropolises, carries echoes of Sumerian innovation. Imagine lying beneath the same stars they once gazed at, knowing that the concept of urban life itself began here, thousands of years ago. Fact 2. The Pyramids of Egypt. Eternal monuments. Few ancient creations capture the imagination quite like the Pyramids of Egypt. The Great Pyramid of Giza, built for Pharaoh Khufu, around 2560 BCE, still stands as the last surviving wonder of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Rising nearly 150 meters into the desert sky, it was the tallest man-made structure on Earth for over 3,800 years. What makes the pyramids so captivating isn't just their size, but the precision with which they were built. Millions of limestone blocks, each weighing several tons, were transported and placed with extraordinary accuracy. Scholars debate exactly how the builders achieved this feat without modern machinery, but most agree that ramps, sledges, and ingenious engineering played crucial roles. The pyramids were tombs, designed to guide pharaohs into the afterlife. Yet they also served as symbols of cosmic order. Their 4 sides aligned almost perfectly with the cardinal directions, and the Great Pyramid itself is aligned with true north, with remarkable precision. Inside, narrow passageways lead to hidden chambers, once filled with treasures for the afterlife. To this day, the pyramids embody mystery and eternity, silent sentinels rising from the sands, whispering of a time when gods and kings seemed inseparable. Fact 3. The Indus Valley's forgotten cities in South Asia. Another great civilization thrived between 2600 and 1900 BC. The Indus Valley Civilization, stretching across what is now Pakistan and northwest India. It rivaled Mesopotamia and Egypt in scale. Its cities, such as Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, were marvels of urban planning. Unlike other ancient cultures dominated by temples or palaces, the Indus Valley people designed cities with straight streets, brick houses, and advanced drainage systems. Their sewage systems were so sophisticated that some historians argue they were more efficient than parts of 19th century Europe. Public baths suggest an emphasis on cleanliness and possibly ritual purification. They also developed standardized weights and measures for trade, showing remarkable organization across their vast territory. Yet the greatest mystery is their script. Hundreds of seals and symbols carved into stone remain undeciphered to this day. Without understanding their writing, we know little of their rulers, religion, or daily life. Around 1900 BCE, the civilization began to decline, possibly due to climate change, shifting rivers, or invasions. What remains is the haunting silence of cities abandoned, their secrets locked away, waiting for someone to finally break the code of their script. Fact 4. The celestial temples of the Maya far across the ocean, in the jungles of Central America. The Maya built cities that rose like stone forests above the canopy, flourishing from about 250 to 900 CE. The Maya civilization crafted pyramids, palaces, and observatories aligned with celestial events. At Chichén Itzá, the famous pyramid of Kukulkan was designed so that, during the equinox, sunlight creates the illusion of a serpent, slithering down its steps, a sacred representation of the feathered serpent god. The Maya were master astronomers and mathematicians. They charted the movements of the moon, Venus, and eclipses with incredible accuracy, even predicting them centuries ahead. Their calendar system was complex, consisting of interlocking cycles of time, while popular culture misinterpreted their 2012 calendar as predicting the end of the world. In truth, it simply marked the close of one great cycle and the start of another. The Maya also developed a hieroglyphic script, carved into monuments and painted in codices. These texts recorded dynasties, rituals, and wars. Yet despite their brilliance, Maya cities were mysteriously abandoned by the 9th century, leaving behind towering temples reclaimed by jungle vines. Walking among them today feels like stepping into a dream, where stone remembers what humans forgot. Fact 5. The roads of Rome. The Roman Empire, which stretched across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East, was tied together by a network of roads so well built that many survive to this day. The phrase "all roads lead to Rome" wasn't just metaphorical, it reflected a very real engineering achievement. Roman roads were constructed with layers of stone, gravel, and sand, designed for durability and drainage. Some were more than 4 meters wide, allowing carts and legions to move efficiently. This network, spanning over 400,000 kilometers at its peak, enabled Rome to project power, move armies swiftly, and maintain trade across vast distances. Roads also helped spread ideas, languages, and cultures. Along them marched not just soldiers, but also merchants, travelers, and messengers, carrying news from one end of the empire to another. Inns and rest stations dotted the routes, creating the world's first truly international highway system. To walk on a Roman road today is to step directly into the footprints of history of emperors, generals, and ordinary citizens whose lives were shaped by this marvel of connectivity. The stones, though weathered, still whisper of empire endurance and the power of infrastructure to shape civilization itself. Fact 6. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon. A wonder lost to time among the 7 wonders of the ancient world. None is as mysterious as the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Unlike the pyramids of Egypt, which still stand, the gardens leave behind no undisputed ruins. Ancient writers such as Strabo and Philo described them as a terraced wonder, rising like a green mountain in the heart of Babylon. Trees, vines, and flowers cascaded down from artificial terraces, watered by an ingenious system that lifted water from the Euphrates River. Legend says they were built by King Nebuchadnezzar II around 600 BCE for his wife Amytis, who missed the lush hills of her homeland. If true, this makes them not only a feat of engineering, but also a monument to love. Modern scholars debate whether they truly stood in Babylon or perhaps in Nineveh, the Assyrian capital. Some suggest that the gardens were a poetic exaggeration, a symbol of the empire's wealth and power, rather than a real construction. Yet the idea of a paradise crafted by human hands continues to enchant us. Imagine standing in the desert heat and suddenly encountering a mountain of greenery, waterfalls trickling down stone terraces. A sanctuary where nature and human ambition intertwined. Even if the gardens never existed exactly as described, they remain one of history's most enduring dreams. Fact 7. The Oracle of Delphi. Voice of the gods. In ancient Greece, those seeking guidance often traveled to Delphi, a sacred site at the foot of Mount Parnassus. There, within the temple of Apollo, lived a Pythiata priestess who served as the oracle. Sitting upon a tripod above a fissure in the earth, she would inhale vapors rising from below and enter a trance. In this altered state, she spoke words that were believed to be inspired by Apollo himself. Kings and generals came to Delphi before making crucial decisions. Should they go to war, found a colony, or enact new laws? Her answers were often cryptic, leaving room for interpretation. For example, King Croesus of Lydia asked if he should attack Persia. The oracle replied, "If you cross the river, a great empire will fall." Croesus assumed it meant Persia's empire, but it was his own that collapsed. The oracle's power lay in ambiguity, blending mysticism with human psychology. Modern studies suggest the vapors may have contained ethylene gas, capable of inducing trance-like states. Whether divine or chemical, the oracle's words shaped centuries of Greek history. Today, Delphi's ruins remain quiet, but once they echoed with pilgrims seeking whispers from the gods. Fact 8. Stonehenge, a monument to the unknown. On the windswept plains of England stands Stonehenge, a ring of massive standing stones erected around 3000 to 2000 BCE. Each stone, some weighing up to 25 tons, was transported over great distances, some from quarries, 150 miles away in Wales. How Neolithic people achieved this without advanced tools remains a mystery. The stones are arranged with astonishing precision, aligned to mark the sol. On Midsummer's Day, the rising sun shines directly into the heart of the monument, suggesting its builders were deeply connected to the cycles of the sky. Archaeologists believe Stonehenge served as a ceremonial site, perhaps linked to death and ancestors, or a place where people gathered for seasonal rituals. Around it lie burial mounds and evidence of feasting, hinting at large gatherings. Yet no written records survive to explain its purpose. Was it a temple to the sun, a calendar, or a healing site? Its silence leaves room for imagination. Standing among the stones at dawn, as light spills across the fields, one feels both the weight of time and the mystery of human aspiration. Stonehenge endures as a symbol of humanity's eternal search to connect with the cosmos. Fact 9. The Terracotta Army of China. In 1974, farmers digging a well near Xi'an, China, uncovered fragments of clay soldiers. What they found would become one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. The Terracotta Army. Built for China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang around to 10 BCE. This underground army was meant to guard him in the afterlife. Over 8,000 life-size soldiers, along with horses and chariots, stand in precise military formation. Each figure is unique, with individualized facial features, hairstyles, and armor. Some even retain traces of paint, suggesting they were once brightly colored. The scale of the project was immense. Craftsmen, laborers, and artisans worked for decades, and many may have perished to keep its secrets safe. The army is only part of a vast mausoleum complex, which ancient texts describe as a replica of the emperor's empire, complete with rivers of mercury to represent water. Modern scientists hesitate to excavate the central tomb due to potential hazards and the risk of damaging artifacts. The Terracotta Army remains a silent host, standing guard for over 2 millennia. To walk among them is to feel the ambition of an emperor who sought not just earthly rule but eternal dominion. Fact 10. Machu Picchu, the lost city of the Incas, high in the Andes Mountains. Above the Urubamba River lies Machu Picchu, the jewel of the Inca civilization. Built in the 15th century under the reign of Emperor it was abandoned within a century, hidden from the outside world until its rediscovery in 1911 by Hiram Bingham. The city sits at nearly 8,000 feet above sea level, blending harmoniously with the surrounding peaks. Its stone structures, from temples to terraces, were crafted with a technique called ashlar masonry, in which stones were cut so precisely that they fit together without mortar. This not only gave them beauty but also resilience against earthquakes. The exact purpose of Machu Picchu remains debated. Was it a royal estate, a ceremonial site, or an astronomical observatory? The Temple of the Sun and the Intihuatana stone suggest deep astronomical significance, aligning with solstices and sacred moments. What makes Machu Picchu so enchanting is not just its construction but its location. Mist drifting through verdant peaks, llamas grazing on terraces, the air thin and crisp. It feels otherworldly, a city in the clouds, reminding us that ancient people achieved wonders in harmony with nature. Fact 11. The Library of Alexandria. A dream of infinite knowledge in the bustling city of Alexandria, founded by Alexander the Great in Egypt. There once stood a library that has become a symbol of human curiosity and loss. The Library of Alexandria, built in the 3rd century BCE, under the rule of the Ptolemaic dynasty, was said to house hundreds of thousands of scrolls, collected from across the known world. Ships docking at Alexandria's harbor were required to surrender any manuscripts they carried, which were then copied by scribes. The originals were often kept, while copies were returned to their owners. Inside its walls, scholars sought to gather all knowledge: histories, plays, mathematics, science, and philosophy. Figures like Euclid, the father of geometry, and Eratosthenes, who calculated the circumference of the earth, worked in Alexandria's intellectual environment. Yet the library's fate is shrouded in tragedy. Accounts differ. Some say it was accidentally burned by Julius Caesar's troops, others that it fell during later conflicts or gradually decayed over time. No definitive record survives. The loss feels almost mythical. A treasure trove of wisdom gone forever, leaving us to wonder what insights into the ancient world, what forgotten discoveries, vanished in the flames. To imagine the Library of Alexandria is to dream of an ancient internet, a central hub where the thoughts of civilizations converged, only to be swallowed by silence. Fact 12. The Moai of Easter Island. Silent giants of stone. Far out in the Pacific Ocean lies Rapa Nui, better known as Easter Island, home to the enigmatic Moai statues, carved between the 13th and 16th centuries by Polynesian settlers. These massive figures, some weighing over 80 tons, were cut from volcanic tuff and transported across the island. Most Moai feature oversized heads, elongated ears, and solemn expressions. They were not merely statues, but sacred symbols, representing deified ancestors, guardians watching over the island's communities. The Moai originally stood on stone platforms called ahu, facing inland to protect the people. How the islanders moved such enormous figures remains a mystery. Some theories suggest they used ropes to walk the statues by rocking them side to side, an astonishing feat of balance and coordination. The creation of the Moai also carried a cost. Deforestation and resource depletion may have contributed to the island's decline. Today, the Moai stand, weathered by centuries of wind and salt. Their gaze is unbroken. They embody both the ingenuity and the fragility of human societies, reminding us that even the most isolated corners of the earth hold wonders crafted by human hands and hearts. Fact 13. The Code of Hammurabi. Laws carved in stone long before modern courts and constitutions. Justice was etched into stone. In Babylon, around 1754 BCE, King Hammurabi established one of the earliest known legal codes, inscribed on a black basalt stele over 7 feet tall. The Code of Hammurabi contained 282 laws, governing everything from trade and contracts to marriage and punishment. The laws followed a principle often summarized as an eye for an eye, though penalties varied by social class. If a noble injured another noble, the punishment was harsh. If the victim was a commoner, the penalty was lighter. The code also addressed protections for widows and orphans, reflecting concerns for social order. At the top of the stele, Hammurabi is depicted receiving authority from Shamash, the sun god of justice, linking divine power to earthly law. What makes this code remarkable is not only its age, but its ambition. To bring fairness, however imperfect, to a growing society. Today, the stele rests in the Louvre Museum in Paris, where visitors gaze upon laws carved nearly 4,000 years ago. In Heatsliness, we see the origins of systems that govern us. Still the idea that rules can bind rulers as well as the ruled, and that justice, though elusive, is a pursuit worth carving into stone. Fact 14. The Nazca Lines. Messages in the desert and the arid plains of southern Peru stretch the Nazca Lines. Immense geoglyphs etched into the desert floor between 500 BCE and 500 CE. From the ground, they appear as shallow grooves in the earth, but from the air, vast shapes emerge. A hummingbird, a spider, a monkey, even geometric patterns stretching for hundreds of meters. The Nazca people created them by removing the reddish surface stones, revealing the lighter soil beneath. Why they did so remains a mystery. Some scholars believe they served as ritual pathways, walked during ceremonies to honor deities connected with water and fertility. Others suggest they were astronomical markers, aligning with celestial events. The sheer scale raises questions about coordination. How could people design figures visible only from above without flight? Recent research shows that careful planning, stakes, and ropes allowed them to create precise, large-scale designs, whatever their purpose. The Nazca Lines endures one of humanity's greatest enigmas. To fly over them today is to glimpse an ancient message written not in words but in earth and stone. Whispers from a culture whose voice has otherwise faded into silence. Fact 15. The Colosseum. Rome's arena of spectacle. In the heart of Rome Riz's the Colosseum, an amphitheater built nearly 2,000 years ago that could hold up to 50,000 spectators. Completed in 80 CE, under Emperor Titus, it was the stage for gladiatorial contests, wild beast hunts, mock naval battles, and public spectacles designed to entertain the masses and display imperial power. Its architecture remains awe-inspiring, elliptical in shape, with tiers of seating, complex underground chambers, and a system of trap-doors that allowed animals and gladiators to appear dramatically in the arena. The Colosseum was a theater of life and death, where men fought for glory, survival, or freedom before roaring crowds. Yet it was also a place of engineering marvels, where awnings shielded audiences from the sun and mechanisms lifted scenery into place. Though scarred by earthquakes and centuries of stone looting, the Colosseum still stands as a symbol of both Rome's grandeur and its brutality. Walking through its ruins today, one can almost hear the echo of the crowd, the clash of swords, and the growl of lions. It is a reminder that civilizations, while capable of profound art and philosophy, also found spectacle in blood and sand. Fact 16. The Great Wall of China. A ribbon across the mountains, stretching across northern China like a stone dragon. The Great Wall is perhaps the most famous structure built by human hands. Its origins date back over 2,000 years, when early Chinese states constructed fortifications to protect against raids from nomadic tribes under Emperor Qin Shi Huang, the first ruler of a unified China. These scattered walls were linked and expanded, creating the foundation for what we know today as the Great Wall. Later dynasties, especially the Ming 14, the Aceh 17th centuries, reinforced and extended it with brick, stone, and watch. In total, the wall and its branches once stretched over 13,000 miles, crossing deserts, mountains, and plains. It was not just a barrier, but a communication system, with beacon fires signaling danger across vast distances. Despite its might, the wall was not impenetrable. Invasions sometimes succeeded. Yet its endurance is remarkable. To walk along its worn stones today is to feel the presence of countless laborers, soldiers, and emperors whose lives were bound to its construction. The Great Wall is both a symbol of defense and of ambition, human determination etched into the very landscape. Fact 17. Stonehenge. Circles of mystery. On the Salisbury Plain in England, a ring of massive stones rises from the grass, casting long shadows at sunrise. Stonehenge, built in stages between 3000 BCE and 2000 BCE, remains one of the most mysterious monuments of prehistory. The largest stones, known as sarsens, weigh up to 25 tons, while smaller bluestones were transported from Wales over 150 miles, a staggering feat for a society without wheels or advanced tools. Archaeologists believe Stonehenge served as a ceremonial or religious site, perhaps aligned with the sol. On the summer solstice, the sun rises directly above the heel stone, flooding the circle with light. Some suggest it was a place of healing, others a burial ground, still others an ancient calendar marking celestial events. What is certain is that building Stonehenge required immense cooperation, planning, and shared belief. Even in ruins, its silence hums with mystery. Standing within the circle, one cannot help but wonder. What songs, what prayers, what hopes echoed between these stones thousands of years ago. Fact 18. The Mayan calendar. Cycles of time, deep in the jungles of Central America, the Maya civilization flourished for centuries, leaving behind temples, cities, and one of the most sophisticated calendars of the ancient world. Unlike the modern calendar, the Maya system was not linear but cyclical, composed of overlapping counts. The 260-day ritual calendar, called the Tsuken, was combined with the 365-day solar year, the Hab, to create a repeating 52-year cycle. Beyond this, the Maya tracked vast spans of time with their long count, a system that could mark millennia. Their astronomers could predict eclipses and tracked the movements of Venus with stunning accuracy. In 2012, popular culture seized upon a misinterpretation of the Mayan calendar, suggesting it predicted the end of the world. In truth, the calendar simply reached the end of one cycle much like our own calendar turns from December 31st to January 1st. For the Maya, time was not a straight road, but a wheel turning endlessly. Their calendar reflects not just mathematical skill, but a worldview where life, death, and rebirth were woven into the very fabric of time itself. Fact 19. The Terracotta Army. Silent soldiers of the afterlife. In 1974, farmers digging a well near Xi'an, China, made one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. An underground army of clay soldiers built to guard the tomb of China's first emperor Qin Shi Huang. Buried around 10 BC, the Terracotta Army includes more than 8,000 life-sized figure soldiers, horses, chariots, and even acrobats. Each warrior is unique, with different facial features, hairstyles, and armor details, as if modeled on real people. Painted in bright colors when first made, they once stood in formation, ready to protect their emperor in the afterlife. The scale of the project is staggering. Artisans and laborers worked for decades to create this clay host, part of a sprawling mausoleum complex that remains largely unexplored. Qin Shi Huang sought immortality, consuming potions of mercury in his quest, but his physical body perished. His clay soldiers, however, endure. To gaze upon them today is to witness both the Emperor Esphia of death and his desire for eternal power, a reminder that even the mightiest rulers sought ways to conquer the unknown beyond life. Fact 20. Machu Picchu. The lost city in the clouds high in the Andes Mountains of Peru, where clouds drift like veils over steep ridges, lies Machu Picchu, the fabled Incan citadel, built in the 5th century under Emperor Pachacati. It remained hidden from outsiders for centuries, untouched by the Spanish conquest, rediscovered in 1911 by explorer Hiram Bingham. Machu Picchu quickly became one of the most celebrated archaeological sites in the world. Its stone walls, terraces, and temples were crafted with astonishing precision. Blocks fitted so tightly together that even a knife blade cannot slip between them. The site includes ceremonial plazas, agriculturao, terraces, and sacred temples aligned with celestial events. Scholars debate its purpose. Was it a royal retreat, a religious sanctuary, or both? What is certain is that Machu Picchu embodies harmony with nature, perched between mountain peaks, nourished by natural springs, and connected to the rhythms of the sun and stars. To walk its paths at dawn, as mist rises from the valleys below, is to step into a dreamscape where the past feels alive, where stone whispers of empire, devotion, and wonder. Fact 21. Petra. The rose-red city carved in stone hidden among the rugged mountains of modern-day Jordan lies. Petra, the ancient Nabataean city, often called the Rose-Red City because of the color of its sandstone cliffs. Founded more than 2,000 years ago, Petra was both a fortress and a hub of trade. The Nabataeans, skilled traders and engineers, carved elaborate facades directly into the rock, including the iconic treasury which greets visitors at the end of the narrow canyon called the Sick. Petra was more than just beautiful, it was practical. The Nabataeans built an ingenious water system with cisterns, aqueducts, and channels, allowing them to thrive in the desert. Caravans carrying spices, silk, incense, and precious stones passed through Petra, filling it with wealth and culture. Over time, shifting trade routes and earthquakes led to its decline, and by the Middle Ages, Petra had faded into legend. Rediscovered in 1812 by Swiss explorer Johann Burckhardt, it astonished the world with its grandeur. Today, walking through the Sick at sunrise, when the sandstone glows pink and gold, one feels transported into another age's city, half-built, half-carved, and fully alive with history. Fact 22. The Library of Alexandria. A dream of knowledge in the bustling city of Alexandria, Egypt. During the reign of Ptolemy II around the 3rd century BCE, a great dream took shape: the creation of a library that would hold all the world's knowledge. The Library of Alexandria sought to collect every scroll, every book, every fragment of wisdom from across the known world. Ships docking in the port were searched, and their manuscripts copied for the library's shelves. At Hitze may have contained hundreds of thousands of scrolls covering philosophy, science, medicine, mathematics, literature, and history. Legends say that within its walls lay lost plays of Sophocles, treatises by Aristotle, and unknown wonders from distant lands. Yet the library's fate was tragic. Fires, wars, and political struggles over centuries led to its destruction. Though no single event is certain, its loss remains one of history's great sorrows, a symbol of how fragile knowledge can be. Yet the dream of universal learning that the library represented continues to inspire modern institutions. The very idea that one place could house the wisdom of all humanity is a timeless reminder of curiosity as power. Fact 23. Angkor Wat, Temple of the Rising Sun in Cambodia, surrounded by dense jungle and moats, stands Angkor Wat. The largest religious monument in the world. Built in the early 12th century by King Sudarvarman II, it was originally dedicated to the Hindu god Vishnu, before later becoming a Buddhist temple. Its sheer scale is staggering. The central complex covers more than 400 acres, with soaring towers shaped like lotus buds, endless galleries, and thousands of carved reliefs depicting epic tales from Hindu mythology. The architecture is aligned with celestial events. On the equinox, the sun rises directly over the central tower. Angkor Wat was not only a temple, but a symbol of the Khmer Empire's might, wealth, and artistic brilliance. Over time, as the empire declined, jungles slowly reclaimed parts of the site, but the temple endured. Rediscovered by Western explorers in the 19th century, it has since become a symbol of Cambodia, even appearing on its national flag. To walk through its corridors today is to be surrounded by stone that breathes stories of gods, kings, and devotion that stretch across centuries. Fact 24. The Olmec Colossal Heads, guardians of an ancient people. Long before the rise of the Maya or the Aztecs, the Olmec civilization flourished in what is now southern Mexico around 1200 to 400 BCE. Known as the mother culture of Mesoamerica, the Olmecs left behind mysterious monuments, enormous stone heads, some standing nearly 10 feet tall and weighing over 20 tons. Carved from volcanic basalt, each head bears a distinct face, with helmets thought to represent rulers or warriors. Transporting and carving these colossal stones without wheels or metal tools required extraordinary skill and organization. The purpose of the heads remains debated. Were they memorials of great leaders, guardians of sacred sites, or symbols of power? The Olmecs also contributed to later Mesoamerican traditions, from ceremonial ball games to early forms of writing and religious iconography. Though their civilization eventually faded, the colossal heads remained silent, witnesses of their world massive, unblinking faces that seemed to gaze through time itself, reminding us of a people whose influence shaped future empires. Fact 25. The Acropolis of Athens. Crown of the classical world rising above the city of Athens is the Acropolis, a rocky hill crowned by temples that embody the ideals of classical Greece. Chief among them is the Parthenon, built in the 5th century BCE during the leadership of Pericles, dedicated to the goddess Athena. The Parthenon's elegant columns and precise proportions reflect both architectural genius and devotion to balance, harmony, and beauty, core values of Greek culture. Within its marble walls once stood a massive statue of Athena, adorned with gold and ivory. The Acropolis was more than a religious center. It was a symbol of Athenian democracy, art, and intellectual achievement during the city's golden age. Philosophers like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle walked beneath its shadow, shaping ideas that continue to influence the world. Though damaged over centuries by war, explosion, and time, the Acropolis still radiates a sense of dignity and permanence. At sunset, when the marble glows honeygold against the sky, it stands as a reminder that human creativity can aspire toward the divine, leaving monuments that outlast empires. Fact 26. The Terracotta Army. Silent soldiers of the first emperor in 1974. Farmers digging a well in Xinchi province, China, uncovered one of the most astonishing archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. The Terracotta Army. Buried for over 2 millennia, these life-sized clay soldiers had been crafted to guard the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of a unified China, 221 to 210 BCE. Each soldier is unique, with distinct facial features, hairstyles, and armor, reflecting the diversity of the emperor's real army. Horses, chariots, and even weaponry were placed alongside them. The scale is breathtaking, over 8,000 figures spread across vast pits, still not fully excavated. The idea behind the terracotta army was rooted in the emperor's desire for immortality. In life, Qin Shi Huang was obsessed with eternal power. In death, he sought protection and companionship. The silent soldiers, buried underground in perfect ranks, reflect both his ambition and the artistry of ancient China. Today, standing before them, one feels both awe and unease, as if the army could march once more, carrying the dreams of a ruler who sought to conquer even death. Fact 27. The Moai of Easter Island, giants of stone and mystery far out in the Pacific Ocean, lies Rapa Nui, or Easter Island, home to one of history's enduring enigmas. The Moai statues, carved between 1400 and 1650 CE. These massive stone figures, some weighing over 80 tons, were created by the island's Polynesian inhabitants. Most Moai have oversized heads, long ears, and solemn expressions, and many were once crowned with red stone hats called pukao. Scholars believe they represented ancestors or chiefs, embodying spiritual power known as mana. But how the islanders moved these giants from quarry to coastline remains debated. Some theories suggest wooden sledges, while others propose the statues were walked upright using ropes in a rocking motion. Over time, many Moai were toppled, perhaps during conflicts or natural disasters. Today, they stand weathered but dignified, gazing inland as if protecting the living. The Moai are reminders of both human ingenuity and the fragility of isolated civilizations. To see them at dawn, silhouetted against the rising sun, is to witness the blend of art, faith, and mystery left behind by a people whose voices echo through stone. Fact 28. Machu Picchu, the lost city in the clouds high in the Andes Mountains of Peru, nearly 8,000 feet above sea level. Lies, Machu Picchu, the fabled Inca citadel. Built in the 15th century, it remained hidden from the outside world until 1911, when American explorer Hiram Bingham brought it to international attention. Machu Picchu is a marvel of engineering and harmony with nature. Its stone terraces prevent erosion, its aqueducts channel fresh water, and its precisely cut stones fit so tightly together that even a knife blade cannot slip between them. Scholars debate its purpose. Was it a royal retreat, a religious center, or an astronomical observatory? The city includes temples, houses, and the famous Intihuatana stone, believed to be a ritual site. The Incas built without wheels or iron tools, yet achieved astonishing precision. Wrapped in mists and surrounded by jagged peaks, Machu Picchu feels both eternal and dreamlike. For modern visitors, it offers not only a glimpse into Inca civilization, but also a sense of tranquillia. City in the clouds where history whispers softly through stone. Fact 29. The Nazca Lines. Messages in the desert and the arid plains of southern Peru stretch enormous geoglyphs, known as the Nazca Lines, created between 500 BCE and 500 CE. These lines, carved into the desert floor by removing reddish rocks to reveal lighter earth beneath, form hundreds of figures. Animals like hummingbirds, monkeys, and spiders, geometric shapes, and long straight lines stretching for miles. Many figures are so vast they can only be fully seen from the air, raising endless questions. Why were they made? Some theories suggest they were ritual pathways linked to water and fertility, others that they were astronomical markers. More imaginative explanations even point to extraterrestrials. What is certain is the effort involved coordinating massive designs. Without modern tools or aerial perspective, required remarkable planning. The Nazca people lived in one of the driest regions on Earth, and their art may have been an appeal to the gods for rain. Today, flying over the Nazca Desert, one feels a strange sense of intimacy with an ancient people who etched their hopes into the very earth, leaving messages meant for the sky. Fact 30. Stonehenge. Circle of Mystery. On the Salisbury Plain, in England, rises Stonehenge, perhaps the most iconic prehistoric monument in the world. Built over several stages between 3000 and 2000 BC, its massive stone sum weighing up to 25 tons, in a circle aligned with the movements of the sun. On the summer solstice, the sun rises precisely over the heel stone, suggesting that Stonehenge functioned as a kind of astronomical observatory. Yet its purpose remains debated. Was it a temple of the sun, a burial ground, a site of healing, or all of these at once? Transporting the stones, some from quarries more than 150 miles away, was itself a monumental feat, likely involving wooden sledges, rafts, and sheer human determination. Beyond the circle lie burial mounds and avenues, hinting at a larger ceremonial landscape. Standing among the stones today, one feels the weight of millennia, as if the earth itself were speaking. Stonehenge endures not only as a monument, but as a riddle, reminding us that even the simplest arrangements of stone can hold mysteries as enduring as the stars. Fact 31. The Great Wall of China. A ribbon across mountains and deserts. The Great Wall of China is not a single wall, but a network of fortifications, watchtowers, and passes stretching thousands of miles across northern China. Construction began as early as the 7th century BCE, but it was during the reign of Qin Shi Huang in the 3rd century BCE that sections were linked to defend against northern nomadic tribes. Later dynasties, especially the Ming, expanded and strengthened the wall into the structure we recognize today. Built of tamped earth, bricks, and stone, the wall snakes across deserts, grasslands, and mountains, following the rugged contours of the land. At its peak, it may have stretched over 13,000 miles. Beyond military defense, it served as a means of controlling trade and migration, a symbol of imperial power, and even a psychological barrier. For those who walked its battlements centuries ago, the wall represented both protection and isolation. Today, gazing across its winding length, one is struck not only by the human labor it required, but also by its endurance, a ribbon of history visible from the heavens themselves. Fact 32. The Pyramids of Teotihuacan. City of the Gods. In central Mexico lies Teotihuacan, once one of the largest cities in the ancient world, reaching its peak around 500 CE. With more than 100,000 inhabitants, its name, given by the later Aztecs, means the place where the gods were created. The city's heart is the Avenue of the Dead, flanked by monumental structures, including the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon. The Pyramid of the Sun rises 216 feet, built of millions of tons of stone without metal tools or beasts of burden. The city's layout reflects astronomical alignments, with buildings positioned in harmony with celestial events. Yet the people who built Teotihuacan remain mysterious. Their language, rulers, and even their true name for the city are unknown. What endures is their legacy of urban planning, art, and religious devotion. Walking through Teotihuacan today, one can imagine the AoE its citizens felt as they gathered for ceremonies beneath towering pyramids, believing themselves at the very center of the cosmos. Fact 33. The Oracle of Delphi. Voice of the Gods. In the sanctuary of Apollo at Delphi, nestled on the slopes of Mount Parnassus in Greece, stood the most famous oracle of the ancient world. For centuries, kings, generals, and commoners alike journeyed to Delphi to seek guidance from the Pythia, the priestess who spoke Apollo's words. Sitting on a tripod above a fissure, inhaling vapors rising from the earth, the Pythia would enter a trance and utter cryptic messages interpreted by priests. Her pronouncements could shape destinies. Wars were launched, cities founded, and rulers legitimized by her words. The oracle embodied the ancient belief that the divine spoke through chosen intermediaries, that the boundary between gods and humans could blur in sacred places. Though modern science debates the nature of the vapors, supposedly ethylene gassed, cultural power of Delphi is undeniable. Today, the ruins of its temple still draw visitors who feel the echo of voices that once guided civilizations. A reminder of how profoundly humans have sought meaning in mysteries greater than themselves. Fact 34. The city of Babylon. Gates of splendor. Babylon, in present-day Iraq, was one of the greatest cities of antiquity, rising to prominence under King Hammurabi in the 18th century BCE, and reaching its zenith under Nebuchadnezzar II in the 6th century BCE. Surrounded by massive walls, the city was entered through the magnificent Ishtar Gate, adorned with glazed blue bricks and golden images of lions, bulls, and dragons. Babylon was famed for its wealth, scholarship, and gardens, though the legendary Hanging Gardens, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, remain shrouded in mystery with no definitive evidence of their existence. The city's ziggurat, Etemenanki, may have inspired the biblical story of the Tower of Babur, a structure reaching toward the heavens. Babylon represented both grandeur and fragility, a center of learning and law, yet also a city vulnerable to conquest. Its ruins today whisper of a civilization that dreamed of eternity, building monuments so bold they became woven into myth. Fact 35. The Colosseum of Rome. Arena of spectacle in the heart of Rome stands the Colosseum, an amphitheater of stone, an ingenuity where tens of thousands once gathered to witness spectacles of gladiators, wild beasts, and staged naval battles. Completed in 80 CE under Emperor Titus, it rose as a symbol of Rome's might, financed in part by the spoils of conquest in Judea. The Colosseum was marvelously engineered, with tiered seating, underground chambers, the hypogeum for animals and gladiators, and a retractable awning system called the velarium to shade spectators. While the games were brutal, involving bloodshed and death, they also embodied the Roman ideals of discipline, power, and entertainment. The arena reflected the empire's ability to organize vast resources for public works, providing both distraction and unity for its citizens, though damaged by earthquakes and quarrying over centuries. The Colosseum still looms as a reminder of Rome's glory and contradictions, a place where cruelty and artistry intertwined beneath the roar of the crowd. Fact 36. The Library of Alexandria. A lost treasure of knowledge in the bustling port city of Alexandria, Egypt, stood what many consider the greatest library of the ancient world. Founded in the 3rd century BCE under the reign of Ptolemy II, the Library of Alexandria sought to collect every text ever written. Scholars from across the Mediterranean and beyond gathered here, studying astronomy, medicine, philosophy, and literature. It is said that ships docking at Alexandria were required to surrender their scrolls, which were copied and stored in the library's vaults. Legends speak of hundreds of thousands of manuscripts, though the true number remains unknown. The tragedy lies in its destruction, whether by fire, neglect, or multiple events over centuries. The details are uncertain. What is clear is that an immeasurable wealth of human thought was lost. Today, the memory of the library serves as both inspiration and warning, a reminder of the fragile nature of knowledge and the human yearning to preserve wisdom against the erosion of time. Fact 37. The Moai statues of Easter Island. Silent guardians of stone, far in the Pacific Ocean, lies Easter Island, or Rapa Nui, a remote land where the ancestors carved monumental statues called moai, rising up to 33 feet tall and weighing as much as 82 tons. These figures, with their elongated faces and solemn expressions, were hewn from volcanic rock. Between the 13th and 16th centuries, they were not merely art, but sacred guardians, representing deified ancestors who watched over their descendants. Transporting the moai from quarry to platform was a feat of ingenuity, involving ropes, teamwork, and perhaps a walking motion that allowed the statues to sway forward. The islanders' devotion to the moai shows how even in isolation, civilizations sought to connect with the divine, shaping their landscapes with stone embodiments of faith. Many moai now lie toppled, victims of conflict and time, but those still standing gaze across the island, like sentinels, whispering stories of resilience and loss to the winds of the Pacific. Fact 38. The Terracotta Army. eternal guardians of the first emperor in 1974. Farmers digging a well near Xi'an, China, uncovered fragments of what became one of the most extraordinary archaeological finds in history. The Terracotta Army, buried over 2,000 years ago to accompany Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China, into the afterlife. The army consists of thousands of life-size clay soldiers, horses, and chariots. Each figure is unique, with individualized facial features, hairstyles, and armor, a testament to the artisan's skill. Arranged in battle formation, they stand in silent ranks within vast underground chambers, an eternal guard for their emperor. The scale is staggering. Over 8,000 soldiers have been uncovered, yet the tomb itself remains largely unexplored. This vast necropolis reflects both the emperor's ambition and the ancient Chinese belief in life after death, where power and protection extended beyond the mortal realm. To stand among them is to feel both awe and humility, as if history itself has taken form in clay. Fact 39. The Nazca Lines. Messages etched into the earth. Across the arid plains of southern Peru, mysterious lines stretch for miles, forming giant geoglyphs of animals, plants, and abstract shapes, created by the Nazca culture between 500 BCE and 500 CE. These figures, some spanning hundreds of feet, can only truly be seen from above. The geoglyphs were made by removing the dark surface stones to reveal lighter earth beneath, a simple yet enduring technique. The purpose of the Nazca lines remains debated. They may have served as astronomical calendars, ritual pathways, or offerings to deities seeking water in the desert. Among the most famous are a hummingbird, a spider, and a monkey, drawn with astonishing precision. Standing on the ground, the lines appear as faint paths, but from the sky, they emerge as vast artworks, messages across time. They remind us that even in harsh landscapes, ancient people found ways to inscribe their beliefs upon the earth, creating monuments, both visible and invisible. Fact 40. The Parthenon of Athens. Temple of Wisdom. On the Acropolis of Athens stands the Parthenon, one of the most iconic structures of ancient Greece. Built in the 5th century BCE during the Golden Age of Pericles, it was dedicated to Athena, goddess of wisdom and the city's protector. Constructed of gleaming Pentelic marble, the Parthenon embodied the ideals of balance, harmony, and proportion. Its columns follow subtle curves and refinements that correct optical illusions, making the structure appear perfectly straight and symmetrical. Inside once stood a colossal statue of Athena, adorned with gold and ivory, a symbol of the city's wealth and devotion. Beyond religion, the Parthenon represented the triumph of democracy and the cultural flowering of Athens. Though later damaged by war and conversion to other uses, its ruins still radiate grandeur. Visitors today walk among the fallen stones and still sense the pride of a people who believed they had touched the heights of human potential through art, philosophy, and civic life. Fact 41. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon. A wonder in the desert among the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon hold a special place in imagination, shrouded in both beauty and mystery. Descriptions from ancient writers tell of tiered terraces rising above the city, lush with trees, flowers, and flowing water, as though a green mountain had been constructed by human hands in the middle of arid Mesopotamia, built perhaps by King Nebuchadnezzar II in the 6th century BCE for his queen who longed for the verdant hills of her homeland. The gardens were said to be irrigated by ingenious systems of pulleys and channels, drawing water from the Euphrates. Yet no definitive archaeological evidence has been found, leaving scholars to wonder whether the gardens truly stood in Babylon, or if they were instead in Nineveh, or perhaps existed only in legend. Whether real or myth, the image of a man-made paradise in the desert continues to inspire dreams of human ingenuity and the longing to bring life to barren landscapes. Fact 42. Stonehenge. A circle of mystery on the windswept plains of Salisbury in England stands Stonehenge, a ring of massive stones erected around 2500 BCE. Each stone, weighing up to 25 tons, was transported from great distances, some from quarries 150 miles away in Wales. How they were moved and erected remains a subject of debate, though ropes, sledges, and sheer human determination must have played roles. The true purpose of Stonehenge is equally mysterious. Some theories suggest it was an astronomical observatory aligned with solstices and others believe it was a sacred site for rituals of life and death. Archaeological evidence reveals burials, offerings, and signs of pilgrimage, suggesting it was a place where the living honored the ancestors and sought connection with cosmic cycles. Standing within the circle at dawn when the first rays of sunlight strike through the alignment of stones, one feels the quiet power of ancient hands shaping earth and sky into a monument that has endured for thousands of years. Fact 43. The Pyramids of Mesoamerica. Steps toward the divine across Central America. Civilizations like the Maya, Aztec, and earlier peoples constructed towering step pyramids that rose above their cities like stairways to the heavens. Unlike the smooth-sided pyramids of Egypt, these structures featured terraces and staircases that often led to temples at the summit. The Pyramid of the Sun in Teotihuacan, built around the 1st century CE, remains one of the largest pyramids in the world, a massive structure aligned with celestial movements. For the Maya pyramids, such as El Castillo in Chichen Itza, functioned as both ceremonial centers and cosmic calendars. During equinoxes, shadows cast along its steps create the illusion of a serpent slithering down the structure. These pyramids were places of sacrifice, worship, and gatherings where the human and divine met. They reveal a worldview in which architecture mirrored the cosmos itself, uniting earth, sky, and underworld in stone. Their scale still humbles us today, echoing the determination of civilizations who sought to climb toward the gods. Fact 44. The Colossus of Rhodes, a titan of bronze. In the harbor of Rhodes, a Greek island in the Aegean, once stood a statue so massive that it was counted among the 7 wonders. Built around 280 BCE to celebrate victory over an invading force, the Colossus of Rhodes was a bronze statue of the sun god Helios, said to rise over 100 feet tall. For decades, it greeted sailors entering the port, a symbol of pride and resilience for the Rhodians. Though later depictions imagined the statue straddling the harbor entrance, historians believe it stood on a solid base at one side. Sadly, an earthquake toppled the Colossus only about 60 years after its completion, and the fragments lay scattered for centuries, still awe-inspiring in their ruin. Travelers came to marvel at the remains, even broken, recognizing the ambition behind its creation. The Colossus may no longer rise above the sea, but its memory lingers as a tale of human aspiration to build monuments that rival the gods themselves. Fact 45. Machu Picchu. The hidden city of the Andes, high in the misty mountains of Peru, Machu Picchu rests like a jewel, cradled between peaks. Built by the Inca in the 15th century, this citadel of stone terraces, temples, and dwellings remained hidden from the outside world until its rediscovery in 1911. Its exact purpose is still debated. Some say it was a royal retreat for Emperor Pachacuti, others a sacred center aligned with astronomical events. The craftsmanship of the Inca is evident in the precise stonework blocks cut so perfectly they fit without mortars, resilient even against earthquakes. Surrounding the city, terraces cascaded down the slopes, allowing agriculture to flourish at high altitude. From the Sun Gate, the view of Machu Picchu at dawn is breathtaking. As the first light gilds, the stones and the clouds drift like a sea below. To walk through its pathways is to sense both the grandeur and the serenity of a civilization that harmonized with its rugged environment, leaving behind a legacy of mystery and wonder. Fact 46. Petra. The rose-red city carved from stone deep in the deserts of Jordan lies Petra, an ancient city that seems to emerge directly from the rock itself. Founded by the Nabateans around the 4th century BCE, Petra became a thriving hub of trade, where caravans, laden with spices, incense, and silks passed through on their way between Arabia, Egypt, and the Mediterranean. What makes Petra truly enchanting is its architecture. Temples, tombs, and facades carved into cliffs of rose-colored sandstone. The most iconic is Al-Khazna, the treasury, whose ornate columns and sculptures gleam golden at sunrise. Walking through the sick, a narrow canyon with towering walls. One finally glimpses this monument, and the effect is breathtaking. Archaeologists have discovered sophisticated water systems here, cisterns and dams that allowed the Nabateans to flourish in an otherwise arid environment. Though eventually annexed by Rome and later abandoned, Petra remained hidden for centuries until rediscovered in the 19th century. Today, it whispers stories of resilience, artistry, and a civilization that turned stone and desert into lasting beauty. Fact 47. The Great Library of Alexandria. A treasure lost few places in history evoke as much wonder and sorrow as the Great Library of Alexandria. Established in Egypt during the reign of Ptolemy II in the 3rd century BC, it was said to hold hundreds of thousands of scrolls texts gathered from ships docking at Alexandria, works of philosophy, mathematics, medicine, poetry, and histories from across the known world. It was envisioned as a universal library, where the collective wisdom of humanity could be preserved and studied. Scholars like Euclid and Archimedes may have walked its halls, exchanging ideas that shaped science for millennia, yet tragedy shrouds its fate. Through a series of fires, wars, and neglect, the library's treasures were lost. To this day, no one knows exactly how much knowledge vanished, works that might have changed the course of human progress forever. The Library of Alexandria stands as both inspiration and warning. A dream of knowledge unbounded, and a reminder of the fragility of human achievement in the face of time and conflict. Fact 48. Easter Island and the Moai. Silent guardians of stone. Far across the Pacific Ocean lies Rapa Nui, known to the world as Easter Island, where nearly 1,000 massive stone statues, called Moai, stand watch over the land. Carved by Polynesian settlers between the 13th and 16th centuries. These statues, some over 30 feet tall and weighing more than 70 tons, were feats of engineering and spiritual devotion. The Moai, with their elongated faces and solemn expressions, are believed to represent ancestors or chiefs, figures of power who continued to protect the community even in death, transporting them from quarries to their platforms, or ahu. Required ingenuity. Scholars suggest they were walked upright using ropes, swayed side to side like giant stone beings taking steps. Over time, deforestation, social upheaval, and outside contact changed Rapa Nui, yet the Moai remain as enduring guardians. Standing before them today, one feels the silence of centuries, the deep connection between people, ancestors, and land, carved forever in volcanic stone. Fact 49. The Terracotta Army of China. Eternal guardians of an emperor. In 1974, farmers digging a well near Xi'an, China, uncovered fragments of clay that revealed one of the most astonishing discoveries of the modern age. The Terracotta Army, buried over 2,000 years ago to guard the tomb of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. This army consists of thousands of life-sized clay soldiers, each with unique features, hairstyles, and armor. Alongside them stand horses, chariots, and weapons, meticulously crafted to serve the emperor in the afterlife. Estimates suggest over 8,000 soldiers may lie in the vast necropolis, much of which remains unexcavated. The artistry is breathtaking, no. Two faces are identical, suggesting individual portraits or at least the illusion of diversity. This immense undertaking reflects the power of Qin Shi Huang, who unified China, standardized laws, currency, and writing, and left a legacy both grand and controversial. The Terracotta Army stands not only as a funerary monument but also as a testament to human ambition, to command loyalty beyond life, to shape eternity with clay and fire. Fact 50. The Nazca Lines. Messages to the sky, etched into the arid plains of southern Peru. The Nazca Lines are vast geoglyphs created between 500 BCE and 500 CE, visible only from above. These lines form geometric shapes, spirals, and enormous figures of animals such as hummingbirds, monkeys, and spiders, stretching across miles of desert floor. The Nazca people achieved this by removing dark surface stones to reveal lighter soil beneath, creating enduring designs that survive thanks to the region's dry climate. The purpose of these geoglyphs remains a mystery. Some suggest they were ritual pathways walked during ceremonies to call for rain in this harsh environment. Others believe they align with celestial bodies, forming a kind of astronomical calendar. A more spiritual interpretation imagines them as offerings meant for gods watching from the sky, standing on a viewing platform today or flying above in a small plane. The scale and precision of the Nazca lines inspire a reminder that, even in barren landscapes, ancient civilizations found ways to connect earth, heaven, and the unseen world. Fact 51. Machu Picchu, the lost city in the clouds high in the Andes of Peru, perched nearly 8,000 feet above sea level, lies Machu Picchu, often called the lost city of the Incas. Built in the 15th century during the reign of Emperor Pachacati, this breathtaking citadel is a marvel of engineering and harmony with nature. Terraces cascade down the mountainside, once used to grow crops, despite the steep terrain. Stone temples, palaces, and houses were carefully constructed without mortar, their stones fitting together so precisely that even earthquakes could not topple them. The city remained hidden from the outside world for centuries, concealed by the mist and jungle, until American explorer Hiram Bingham brought it to international attention. In 1911, scholars still debate its true purpose. Was it a royal retreat, a sacred religious site, or perhaps a combination of both? What is clear is its arrest ending among the stone walls as clouds drift by. One feels transported to another realm, where human ingenuity met the majesty of mountains in perfect balance. Fact 52. Göbekli Tepe, the world's first temple, long before the pyramids. Before Stonehenge, humanity was already raising monumental structures. In southeastern Turkey lies Göbekli Tepe, dated to around 9600 BCE, making it over 11,000 years old. This site is often called the world's first known temple. Massive T-shaped stone pillars, some weighing more than 20 tons, stand arranged in circles, carved with intricate images of animals: lions, snakes, vultures, and wild boars. What makes Göbekli Tepe extraordinary is that it was built by hunter-gatherer societies. Before the advent of agriculture or settled towns, the effort required to quarry, transport, and erect these stones suggests a remarkable level of organization and spiritual motivation. Some archaeologists believe it was a site of pilgrimage, a place where scattered groups gathered for rituals that bound their communities together. Its discovery has reshaped our understanding of civilization, suggesting that religion and shared belief may have sparked social complexity long before farming did. In Göbekli Tepe's silent stones, we glimpse the earliest stirrings of human imagination, reaching toward the divine. Fact 53. Angkor Wat, the city of temples. Hidden in the jungles of Cambodia, Angkor Wat rises as the largest religious monument on earth. Built in the 12th century by King Suryavarman II, originally dedicated to the Hindu god Vishnu and later transformed into a Buddhist site, it reflects both spiritual devotion and imperial power. Its 5 towers symbolize the peaks of Mount Meru, the cosmic mountain of Hindu mythology, while the surrounding moat represents the oceans encircling the universe. Intricate bas-reliefs cover miles of walls, depicting epic tales from the Ramayana and celestial dances and historical events. What makes Angkor Wat particularly mesmerizing is how it blends grandeur with symmetry. Its design aligns with celestial patterns, and at the equinox, the sun rises directly over its central tower. Once the heart of the Khmer Empire, Angkor eventually declined, its temples swallowed by jungle until rediscovery. Today, walking among its courtyards at dawn, as sunlight filters through stone corridors, visitors sense not just a ruined kingdom, but an eternal dialogue between heaven and earth. Fact 54. The Mayan calendar and cosmic timekeeping. Among the most fascinating achievements of the Maya civilization was their mastery of time. Living in Central America from around 2000 BCE to the 16th century CE, the Maya developed a complex system of calendars that combined astronomy, mathematics, and spirituality. Their long-count calendar tracked vast cycles of time, while the 260-day ritual calendar that's intertwined with the 365-day solar year to form a 52-year calendar round. For the Maya, time was not linear but cyclical, a series of repeating ages governed by cosmic forces. They observed the movements of Venus with extraordinary precision, timing wars and ceremonies according to its rising. In 2012, A widespread misunderstanding suggested the Mayan calendar predicted the end of the world. But in truth, it simply marked the end of one cycle and the beginning of another. To the Maya, each moment carried sacred weight, each day a thread in the cosmic tapestry. Their calendars remind us of how ancient civilizations looked to the heavens, not just to measure time, but to find meaning in its flow. Fact 55. The Colosseum of Rome. Arena of spectacle and blood. In the heart of Rome stands the Colosseum, a vast amphitheater begun in 72 CE, under Emperor Vespasian, and completed by his son Titus, holding up to 50,000 spectators. It was the stage for gladiatorial combat, mock sea battles, animal hunts, and grand public spectacles. Its architecture was revolutionary. Tiers of arches, concrete foundations, and a complex system of elevators and trapdoors that allowed for dazzling performances. To the Roman people, the Colosseum embodied both entertainment and imperial might, a gift from emperors to secure loyalty. Yet beneath its grandeur lay brutal realities: enslaved gladiators fighting for survival, exotic animals brought from across the empire, and crowds cheering as blood was spilled. Over time, earthquakes and stone scavengers reduced it to ruins, yet its silhouette remains one of the most iconic symbols of Rome. Today, standing within its weathered arches, one can almost hear echoes of the crowds, the clash of swords, the roar of beasts, reminder of humanity's hunger for spectacle, and the complex legacy of civilizations past. Fact 56. Stonehenge. The enigma of the standing stones on the wide plains of Salisbury in England stands one of the most mysterious monuments in the world. Stonehenge, built in several phases between 3000 BCE and 2000 BCE. It consists of massive sarsen stones, some weighing more than 25 tons, arranged in a circular formation. Smaller blue stones, transported from Wales, over 150 miles away, add to the puzzle of how ancient people managed such feats without modern machinery. Scholars have long debated its purpose. Was it an astronomical observatory, a ceremonial site, a temple of healing, or all of these combined? The alignment of the stones with the solstices suggests that the builders carefully observed the movements of the sun and moon, marking cycles of the year. For ancient communities, such knowledge was vital for farming and rituals tied to the seasons. Visitors today often describe a sense of awe standing among the stones at dawn, as sunlight strikes directly through the central axis on the summer solstice. Stonehenge remains a silent witness to a civilization's connection to the cosmos, a monument where human hands raise stone to mirror the heavens. Fact 57. The Parthenon of Athens. Temple to a goddess. In the heart of Athens, on the Acropolis, rises the Parthenon, a symbol of ancient Greece's devotion to beauty, philosophy, and democracy. Constructed in the 5th century BCE, under the leadership of Pericles, this temple was dedicated to Athena, the city's patron goddess. Designed by architects Actinos and Callicrates, with sculptures directed by the master Phidias, it represents the pinnacle of classical architecture. Perfect proportions define its form: columns, slightly curved, corners subtly adjusted so that the eye perceives harmony from every angle. Inside one stood a colossal statue of Athena, adorned with gold and ivory, reflecting both divine reverence and civic pride. The Parthenon also served as a treasury, housing wealth collected by the Delian League. Over centuries, it endured transformations into a church, Tana Mosque, and suffered explosions during wars. Yet even in ruin, its white marble columns glow under the Athenian sun, embodying ideals of order, balance, and beauty that shaped Western civilization. The Parthenon whispers not only of gods, but of a people who believed art and reason could bring them closer to the divine. Fact 58. The Indus Valley Civilization. A forgotten urban miracle. Long before Rome or Athens, along the fertile plains of the Indus River, flourished one of the world's earliest urban civilizations. The Indus Valley Civilization, also known as Harappan culture, around 2500 BC. Spread across what is now Pakistan and northwest India, it boasted sophisticated cities like Mohenjo Daro and Darapa, with straight streets laid out in grids, advanced drainage systems, and standardized bricks. Their urban planning suggests a high degree of social organization and civic care. Archaeologists have uncovered seals engraved with animals and symbols, possibly an undeciphered script, an artifact showing trade links with Mesopotamia. Yet much about this civilization remains a mystery. We know little of their rulers, their beliefs, or why their society eventually declined. Some suggest climate change, shifts in rivers, or invasions contributed. Still, walking among the ruins today, one sees evidence of a people who valued cleanliness, order, and community as civilization ahead of its time, whose quiet achievements continue to inspire thousands of years later. Fact 59, Chichén Itzá. The Maya is a sacred city. In the peninsula of Mexico stands Chichén Itzá, one of the great cities of the Maya civilization, flourishing between the 9th and 12th centuries CE. Its most famous structure, El Castillo, the Temple of Kukulcanis, a step pyramid designed with extraordinary precision. During the equinox, sunlight casts a serpent-like shadow that appears to slither down the pyramid staircase, symbolizing the feathered serpent god. The city also features the Great Ball Court, the largest in Mesoamerica, where ritual games were played, possibly with high stakes tied to life and death. Temples, observatories, and cenotes sacred, water-filled sinkholes dot the site, highlighting the Mayas' integration of astronomy, religion, and daily life. Chichén Itzá's architecture embodies both power and spirituality, reminding us of how the Mayas saw the universe as a place where gods, humans, and nature intertwined. Even today, as tourists gather during equinox celebrations, one feels the blend of mathematics, myth, and ritual that define this sacred city. Fact 60. The Pyramids of Teotihuacan. Avenue of the Gods just outside modern-day Mexico City lies Teotihuacan, once one of the largest cities in the world, flourishing between 100 BCE and 550 CE. At its peak, it may have housed over 100,000 people, with grand pyramids rising along the Avenue of the Dead. The Pyramid of the Sun, towering at over 200 feet, and the Pyramid of the Moon dominated the skyline, while the Temple of the Feathered Serpent dazzled with intricate carvings. Unlike many civilizations, the identity of Teotihuacan's rulers remains shrouded in mystery. Some believe it was governed by powerful priests or councils rather than kings. What is clear is its influence. Later cultures like the Aztecs revered it as a sacred place, Calinit, the city of the gods. Murals within its complexes revealed vibrant colors and spiritual themes, suggesting that art and ritual permeated daily life. The sheer scale of Teotihuacan, with its planned avenues and multi-story apartment complexes, speaks to an urban experiment centuries ahead of its time. Walking its central road today, one imagines the bustle of markets, the chants of rituals, and the silent watch of pyramids standing firm against centuries of wind and sun. Fact 61, Petra. The rose-red city carved in stone deep within the deserts of Jordan lies Petra. Often called the rose-red city because of the warm hues of sandstone cliffs into which it was carved. Established by the Nabonians around the 4th century BCE, Petra became a flourishing center of trade, linking Arabia, Egypt, and the Mediterranean. Merchants passed through its winding canyons with caravans of incense, spices, and precious goods. Perhaps the most iconic structure is Okazna, or the treasury, a grand facade carved directly into the rock face, blending Greek-style columns with Near Eastern motifs. Yet Petra was more than monuments. It was a living city with temples, tombs, theaters, and even advanced water systems that allowed it to thrive in an arid landscape. Hidden for centuries to outsiders, it was rediscovered by a Swiss explorer in 1812. Today, when the sun sets and shadows stretch across the cliffs, Petra glows with an otherworldly light, reminding us of a civilization that mastered both artistry and survival in the desert. Its silence at night, broken only by wind through canyons, feels like a lullaby from antiquity. Fact 62. The Library of Alexandria, a lost treasure of knowledge. Among the wonders of the ancient world that no longer stand Few stir the imagination like the Library of Alexandria. Founded in the 3rd century BCE in Egypt, under the rule of Ptolemy II, it was intended to gather all the world's knowledge under one roof. Scholars believe it may have housed hundreds of thousands of scrolls, covering subjects from astronomy and medicine to literature and philosophy. Ships docking in Alexandria were reportedly required to surrender their men, which scribes would copy before returning, ensuring the library's collection expanded constantly. Great thinkers like Euclid and Archimedes are believed to have studied there, yet its fate was tragic. The library was destroyed, perhaps more than once, by fires during wars and conflicts. Much of what humanity once knew. Even so, the dream of a universal repository of wisdom continues to inspire modern libraries and digital archives. When we imagine its halls, lined with scrolls, scholars whispering by lamplight, the Library of Alexandria becomes less a ruin and more a symbol of how precious and fragile human knowledge truly is. Fact 63. Angkor Wat, Temple of the Rising Sun. In Cambodia, hidden for centuries by Jungula, stands Angkor Wat, the largest religious monument in the world. Built in the early 12th century under King Suryavarman II, it was originally dedicated to the Hindu god Vishnu before becoming a Buddhist temple. Its scale is staggering. Massive galleries, towering lotus-shaped spires, and kilometers of bas-reliefs depicting epic stories like the Ramayana and Mahabharata, designed to represent the cosmic Mount Meru, home of the gods. Angkor Wat is both an earthly palace and a celestial map. Its alignment with the rising sun and equinoxes reflects the Khmer Empire's deep knowledge of astronomy. Despite centuries of weather, wars, and neglect, Angkor Wat endures, a symbol of resilience and devotion. At dawn, when the sun rises behind its towers, reflected in the lotus ponds, the temple glows in gold light. It is a moment so serene that time seems suspended, as if the ancient Khmer builders intended their monument not only for worship, but for moments of eternal stillness, calming both gods and humans alike. Fact 64. Machu Picchu, the Incas' hidden sanctuary high in the Andes of Peru, surrounded by misty peaks, lies Machu Picchu, the most famous Inca site. Built in the 15th century and abandoned a century later during the Spanish conquest, it remained hidden from the outside world until its rediscovery in 1911 by explorer Hiram Bingham. Often called the lost city of the Incas, Machu Picchu was likely a royal retreat for Emperor Ptolemy. Its terraces cascade down mountainsides, enabling agriculture at dizzying altitudes, while its stonework fits together so precisely that even a knife blade cannot pass between blocks, temples, plazas, and homes. The site, with the Temple of the Sun perfectly aligned with scholars debate its purpose, whether it was a sacred center, a military stronghold, or a royal estate, but all agree it embodies the Incas' harmony with nature. Clouds drift among its ruins, and llamas graze quietly on its terraces, giving the site a dreamlike calm. Standing there, one feels not just history, but eternity, a place where mountains and humans met in reverence. Fact 65. Easter Island, the silent Moai guardians far out in the Pacific Ocean, isolated from other lands, lies Easter Island, or Rapa Nui. Here, the Rapa Nui people, beginning around the 13th century, carved and raised hundreds of colossal stone statues known as Moai. These figures, with elongated faces and solemn expressions, stand watch across the island, some nearly 30 feet tall. Carved from volcanic rock, they were transported by methods still debated from quarries to their platforms, called ahu. Near the coast, the Moai are believed to represent ancestors, serving as spiritual guardians of communities. Yet their construction came at great cost, requiring immense labor and straining island resources. By the time Europeans arrived in the 18th century, much of Rapa Nui society had declined, likely due to deforestation and conflict. Even so, the Moai endure, gazing silently toward the horizon, as if keeping eternal vigil. In their stillness, they invite reflection. how fleeting human power can be, yet how enduring the desire to honor those who came before. On nights when moonlight bathes their faces, the Moai seem less statues than companions, whispering across centuries in stone silence. Fact 66. The Colossus of Rhodes. A titan at the harbor in the ancient Greek world. Few sights must have been as awe-inspiring as the Colossus of Rhodes, built around 280 BCE. To celebrate the island's successful defense against a siege. The statue honored the sun god Helios, rising nearly 100 feet. It was one of the tallest statues of antiquity, and became known as one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. While myths suggest the statue straddled the harbor with ships passing beneath its legs, historians believe it actually stood on solid ground, near to port, towering over traders and sailors. Crafted of bronze plates over an iron framework, the Colossus symbolized resilience and divine protection. Unfortunately, it stood for less than a century before an earthquake toppled it in 226 BCE. Even in ruin, its fragments amazed travelers for centuries, described as massive and almost otherworldly. When we imagine it gleaming in the sun, casting long shadows over the Aegean waves, it feels like a dream too grand to last, yet its memory still stands tall in history as imagination. Fact 67. The Oracle of Delphi. Voice of the gods in ancient Greece. Those seeking guidance would travel to Delphi, believed to be the very center of the world, marked by the sacred Omphalos stone. Here, in the temple of Apollo, the oracle spoke. The Pythia, a priestess, sat upon a tripod over a chasm, inhaling vapors that rose from the earth. In this trance-like state, she delivered cryptic prophecies that rulers, generals, and common people alike would interpret. From decisions of war to foundations of cities, the words of the oracle shaped destinies. While modern science speculates that gases like ethylene may have induced altered states of consciousness, to the ancients, her words were divine truth. The temple itself, perched on Mount Parnassus, looked down over olive groves and valleys, as if deliberately placed between heaven and earth. Visitors often described the hush that fell before her pronouncements, a silence so heavy it seemed the air itself waited. To imagine Delphi is to picture not just prophecy, but the reverence of a people who believed the gods spoke in whispers, carried on the mountain wind. Fact 68. The Great Zimbabwe. A stone city of mystery. In southern Africa, between the 11th and 15th centuries, rose Great Zimbabwe, a massive stone city built without more. Its name, meaning stone houses, fits perfectly. Towering walls up to 36 feet high enclose enclosures, palaces, and dwellings. The most famous structure is the Great Enclosure, with its circular walls and conical tower, whose purpose remains uncertain. Was it a granary, a royal residence, or a symbol of power? The city thrived as a trade hub, connecting interior Africa with coastal merchants who exchanged gold and ivory for glass beads, porcelain, and cloth from as far as China and Persia. At its height, tens of thousands of people lived here, proof of a sophisticated and wealthy civilization. When European explorers first encountered its ruins, they doubted Africans could have built it, but archaeology has since confirmed its local origin. At dusk, when shadows stretch across its stone walls, Great Zimbabwe feels like a riddle preserved in silence, a monument to human ingenuity that still refuses to reveal all its secrets. Fact 69. The Terracotta Army. Silent soldiers of the first emperor in 1974. Farmers digging a well in China stumbled upon one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. The Terracotta Army. Buried near the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, China's first emperor, were thousands of life-sized clay soldiers, each uniquely detailed with distinct facial features, hairstyles, and armor. Horses, chariots, and even musicians accompanied them, forming an eternal army to guard the emperor in the afterlife. Created over 2,000 years ago, the army reveals not only artistic skill but also the political might of Qin Shi Huang, who unified China under his rule. What is most striking is the individuality of the soldiers. No two faces are identical, as if craftsmen sought to breathe real life into clay. The silent ranks stretch underground, their gazes fixed forward, as though still awaiting orders. Walking among them today is like entering a dream where time has stopped, where soldiers stand ready, not for battle, but for an endless watch in the quiet depths of history. Fact 70. The Nazca Lines. Messages to the sky across the arid plains of southern Peru. Vast geoglyphs stretch across the desert floor lines. Spirals and animal figures so large they can only be fully seen from above. Created by the Nazca culture between 500 BCE and 500 CE, the Nazca Lines depict hummingbirds, monkeys, spiders, and mysterious geometric shapes. Scholars have long debated their purpose. Were they astronomical calendars, ritual pathways, or offerings to deities who looked down from the heavens? The desert's dryness preserved them for centuries, etched into the earth by removing dark stones to reveal lighter sand beneath. Walking beside them, the lines appear simple, even unremarkable. Yet from the sky they transform into vast, elegant figures. Imagine ancient priests or shamans pacing along these paths, chanting prayers to gods of rain and fertility, while stars wheeled above in silence. The Nazca Lines remind us of humanity's desire to communicate not only with each other, but with the cosmos itself, messages drawn in earth, meant for the eyes of eternity. Fact 71. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon. A suspended paradise among the seven wonders of the ancient world. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon remain the most mysterious, largely because no definitive archaeological evidence has ever been found. Ancient accounts describe a breathtaking marvel. Terrace gardens rising high above the city walls, filled with lush greenery, flowing streams, and exotic plants that seem to defy the desert climate. Some say King Nebuchadnezzar II built them in the 6th century BCE for his queen, who missed the verdant hills of her homeland. The engineering required to sustain such gardens would have been extraordinary, involving complex irrigation systems that lifted water from the Euphrates River. Imagine cascading terraces, shaded by trees, where birds sang and flowers bloomed, creating an oasis of life in the heart of Mesopotamia. Whether legend or reality, the very idea of the Hanging Gardens continues to enchant, representing humanity's eternal desire to bring paradise down to earth. Fact 72. The Minoan Civilization. Masters of the sea. On the island of Crete, long before classical Greece, flourished the Minoan civilization, thriving between 2600 and 1100 BCE. Known for their advanced palaces, vibrant frescoes, and mastery of seafaring, the Minoans were a society of elegance and innovation. The palace at Knossos, with its labyrinthine corridors, gave rise to the myth of King Minos and the Minotaur. But beyond myth, the Minoans were pioneers in art, depicting dolphins, lilies, and dancing figures in frescoes that still glow with color today. They traded across the Mediterranean, spreading their influence through goods and ideas. Strikingly, their society appears less focused on warfare than others of the era, suggesting a culture that valued beauty, ritual, and sea power over conquest. Walking through the ruins of Knossos today, one can almost hear the echo of music, the shuffle of feet in dance, and the laughter of people celebrating life by the sea. Fact 73. The Indus Valley Civilization. The Forgotten Cities, the Indus Valley Civilization, flourishing around 2600 to 1900 BCE, built some of the world's earliest cities, such as Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa. What sets them apart is their remarkable urban planning. Straight streets laid out in grids, advanced drainage systems, and standardized bricks for construction. These features suggest a highly organized and cooperative society. Strangely, little is known about their political structure or language, as their script remains undiscovered. No palaces or temples dominate their ruins, hinting at a culture possibly more egalitarian than others of the time. Artifacts reveal people who loved jewelry, games, and perhaps music. Mohenjo-Daro's Great Bath, a large public water tank, suggests ritual, cleansing, or communal gathering. To walk through its silent ruins is to feel a sense of order and calm, as if the people valued harmony not only in their cities, but also in their way of life. The Indus Valley remains one of history's great enigmas, a civilization advanced yet largely voiceless in the written record. Fact 74. The Olmec Heads. Faces of the first Mesoamerican civilization. Long before the Maya or Aztec, the Olmec civilization thrived in present-day Mexico. From around 1200 to 400 BCE, they left behind massive stone sculptures known as the Olmec Heads, carved from basalt boulders weighing up to 40 tons. Each head has distinct features, suggesting they represent rulers or important figures. Their sheer scale and craftsmanship inspire awe. Could people without metal tools or the wheel transport and shape such enormous stones? The Olmecs are often called the mother culture of Mesoamerica, for they introduced writing, religious concepts, and artistic traditions that later civilizations adopted. The colossal heads, with their calm, watchful expressions, stand as guardians of a forgotten world. When viewed at sunrise or sunset, with shadows softening their features, they seem almost alive. Timeless observers of a land rich in myth and memory. Fact 75. The Pyramids of Teotihuacan. City of the Gods, north of modern-day Mexico City, lies Teotihuacan, once the largest city in the Americas, flourishing between 100 BCE and 550 CE. Its name, given by later Aztecs, means the place where gods were born. The city's heart is the Avenue of the Dead, lined with monumental structures, including the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon. The sheer scale of Teotihuacan is staggering. Tens of thousands of people lived here, producing pottery, obsidian tools, and colorful murals. Strangely, the identity of its founders remains uncertain, and by the time the Aztecs discovered it centuries later, it was already abandoned. To climb the Pyramid of the Sun is to look out over a vast urban expanse, designed with cosmic precision, aligned with celestial movements, at night, under a sky filled with stars. Teotihuacan feels less like a ruin and more like a bridge between Earth and the heavens. Fact 76. The Nazca Lines. Messages in the desert and the arid plains of southern Peru, etched into the desert floor, lie the Nazca Lines, giant geoglyphs created between 500 BCE and 500 CE. These figures include animals like monkeys, hummingbirds, and spiders, as well as geometric patterns stretching for miles. From the ground, they seem little more than shallow trenches. Yet from the air, an entire gallery of enormous artworks unfolds across the desert. How the Nazca people conceived and executed such massive designs without aerial perspective remains a mystery. Some scholars suggest they had simple surveying tools, while others speculate that balloons may have been used. The purpose of the lines is equally enigmatic. Were they religious offerings to sky deities, giant calendars marking solstices, or ceremonial pathways for processions? Standing in the desert, with the wind carrying sand across your feet, you can almost sense their quiet reverence for the sky. The Nazca Lines endure as whispers carved into the earth, speaking to God's ancestors, or perhaps to us. Fact 77. The Library of Alexandria. A dream of infinite knowledge. Few symbols of lost knowledge resonate more strongly than the Library of Alexandria. Built in Egypt, during the reign of Ptolemy II in the 3rd century BC, it was said to contain hundreds of thousands of scrolls from across the known world. Philosophers, scientists, and poets from Greece, Egypt, Mesopotamia, and India may have all contributed works. Imagine rooms lined with papyrus scrolls, scribes carefully copying texts, and scholars debating under oil lamps. It was, in essence, humanity's first attempt at a universal archive of wisdom. Its destruction, whether by fire, neglect, or gradual decline, remains one of history's great tragedies. The thought of countless lost works of science, history, and literature haunts the imagination. Perhaps cures for diseases, forgotten inventions, or epic stories vanished with those flames. To think of the library is to dream of what could have been, a treasure of knowledge that might have changed the course of human history. Fact 78. The Great Zimbabwe. Stone houses of kings in the rolling hills of modern Zimbabwe lies the ruin known as Great Zimbabwe. Built between the 11th and 15th centuries CE, its name means stone houses, and indeed its walls, made of granite blocks without mortars. still rise tall and majestic. The great enclosure, with walls stretching up to 11 meters high, forms a grand circular structure that might have housed royalty or served ceremonial purposes. At its age, Great Zimbabwe was the center of a powerful kingdom, controlling trade in gold and ivory across southern Africa. Archaeological finds, Chinese ceramics, Arabian glass, Indian beads reveal its role in global trade networks, long before European arrival. For years, colonial scholars denied that Africans could have built such a site, attributing it falsely to outsiders. Today, Great Zimbabwe stands proudly as proof of indigenous ingenuity and power, its silent walls resonating with the echoes of drums, songs, and the life of a thriving civilization. Fact 79. The Moai of Easter Island. Silent watchers of the Pacific. Far across the Pacific Ocean, on remote Rapa Nui Batar, known as Easter Island, rise Te Moai, colossal stone statues carved between the 13th and 16th centuries CE. Each Moai, with elongated faces and solemn expressions, was placed on stone platforms called ehu, watching over villages. They likely represented ancestors or important chiefs, guardians who connected the living with the spiritual world. Moving these massive statues, some weighing over 80 tons, across the island without modern machinery, was a feat of ingenuity. Oral traditions say the Moai walked, possibly hinting at the use of ropes and rocking motions. Sadly, deforestation and overuse of resources led to societal collapse, and many Moai were toppled during conflicts. Today, restored Moai still stand proudly against the backdrop of ocean, waves, and winds. To gaze upon them is to feel their enduring strength, as if the ancestors still keep watch, patient and eternal. Fact 80. Petra. The rose-red city carved from stone hidden among the desert canyons of Jordan lies Petra, an ancient Nabatean city that flourished from the 4th century BCE to the 2nd century CE. Known as the Rose-Red City for its sandstone cliffs that glow in shades of pink and red at sunrise and sunset, Petra is a marvel of rock-cut architecture. The most famous structure, Alcazana the Treasury, was carved directly into the cliff face, its intricate facade blending Hellenistic style with local artistry. Petra was a hub of trade, connecting Arabia with the Mediterranean, and its wealth is reflected in its monumental tombs, temples, and amphitheaters. Walking through the narrow, sick canyon, with towering cliffs on either side, and emerging suddenly into the open space where the treasury looms, is an experience that feels otherworldly. By night, when candles line the path and stars shine above, Petra transforms into a place of dreamlike beauty, echoing with ancient voices carried on desert winds. Fact 81. Machu Picchu. The lost city of the Incas high in the Andes Mountains of Peru, shrouded in mist and surrounded by steep green peaks, lies Machu Picchu, the most famous remnant of the Inca civilization, built in the 15th century during the reign of Emperor Pachacute. This site was unknown to the outside world until its rediscovery in 1911 by Hiram Bingham. Its stone terraces, temples, and plazas cling to the mountainside with astonishing precision, each block fitted so tightly that even a blade of grass cannot slip between them. Scholars debate its purpose. Was it a royal retreat, a ceremonial center, or perhaps both? The Temple of the Sun, aligned with solstices, suggests astronomical significance. Imagine the Incas walk in these terraces, llamas carrying goods, priests observing the stars, and rulers gazing across valleys that stretch to the horizon. Machu Picchu, S.A. feels timeless when the morning mist lifts to reveal stone structures glowing in golden sunlight. One understands why it's called the Lost City, not because it was forgotten by its people, but because it feels like a place outside of time itself. Fact 82. Stonehenge. A circle of mystery on the Salisbury Plain of England stands Stonehenge, a circle of massive standing stones erected around 2500 BC. Some stones weigh over 25 tons and were transported from quarries dozens of miles away, while others came from even farther Wales, nearly 150 miles distant. How ancient people achieved this feat without wheels or advanced machinery is still debated. Stonehenge likely served as both a ceremonial and astronomical site. The alignment of its stones with the summer solstice sunrise and winter solstice sunset suggests it functioned as a kind of calendar. Yet it was also a place of burial and ritual, layered with meaning. Standing among the stones at dawn, as light streams through the ancient trilith, is to feel connected to countless generations who gathered here to mark time, seasons, and life itself. Stonehenge speaks to humanity's eternal quest to understand the heavens and our place beneath them. Fact 83. The Terracotta Army. Eternal guardians of an emperor. In 1974, farmers digging in Shanxi Province, China, uncovered fragments of clay that led to one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of the 20th century, the Terracotta Army. Buried around 210 BCE, to guard the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, China's first emperor. The site contains thousands of life-sized clay soldiers, each unique in facial features, hairstyles, and armor. Horses, chariots, and weapons accompany them, forming an army meant to protect the emperor in the afterlife. The scale is staggering. Estimates suggest over 8,000 figures lie within the complex, many still unexcavated. Imagine walking through the pits, rows upon rows of silent guardians frozen in eternal readiness. Their expressions stoic, yet human. The craftsmanship is extraordinary: armor plates, carefully carved, intricate hairstyles, preserved in clay. The Terracotta Army is not merely a tomb ornament. It is a testament to the emperor's ambition and the artistry of ancient China, echoing across millennia with both awe and reverence. Fact 84. Chichen Itza, the pyramid. In the heart of the peninsula, the Maya built Chichen Itza, a great city that flourished between the 7th and 10th centuries CE. Its centerpiece is El Castillo, also known as the Temple of a Step Pyramid rising 24 meters high. Each of its 4 sides has 91 steps, totaling 364, with the top platform making 365 the number of days in a solar year. During the equinoxes, sunlight casts the shadow of a serpent slithering down the pyramid staircase, aligning with the carved serpent heads at the base. This breathtaking display is both an astronomical marvel and a spiritual spectacle, honoring the feathered serpent deity. Chichen Itza also houses the Great Ball Court, where ritual games carried cosmic significance, and the Temple of the Warriors, flanked by rows of carved columns. To walk among these structures under the hot sun is to feel the pulse of a people who merged science, religion, and architecture into one harmonious vision of the cosmos. Fact 85. The Oracle of Delphi. Voice of the gods, in ancient Greece, nestled on the slopes of Mount Parnassus, lay the sanctuary of Delphi, home to the oracle who spoke for Apollo. Pilgrims traveled from across the Mediterranean to seek guidance on matters of war, politics, and personal destiny. The Pythia, a priestess, would enter a trance possibly induced by vapors rising from the earth beneath the temple and deliver cryptic prophecies. These words, interpreted by priests, shaped decisions that altered the course of history. The sanctuary also held the Temple of Apollo, treasuries from various cities, and a theater where festivals celebrated the god. Delphia was considered the Omphalos, the navel of the world, the very center of the earth. Imagine the hush of the crowd as the priestess began to speak, her words veiled, yet powerful, carrying the weight of divine will. Today, the ruins still exude an air of mystery, the stones warmed by the Greek sun, the mountains echoing with the whispers of prophecy. Fact 86. The Library of Alexandria, a dream of infinite knowledge in the bustling port city of Alexandria. Egypt, around the 3rd century BCE, stood a place that still inspires wonder and sorrow. The Great Library of Alexandria, commissioned by Ptolemy II and envisioned as the greatest collection of human knowledge. It is said to have housed hundreds of thousands of scrolls. Ships docking in Alexandria were often searched, and manuscripts were copied for the library's shelves. Within its walls, scholars from across the world, Greeks, Egyptians, Indians, Mesopotamians, gathered to study medicine, astronomy, philosophy, and mathematics. Imagine the hushed halls lined with papyrus scrolls, the flicker of oil lamps, the scent of parchment and ink, and voices debating theories that shaped the foundations of science. Yet the library is most famous for its tragic end. Accounts differ. Some say Julius Caesar's siege fire in 48 BCE destroyed it. others that successive wars and neglect reduced it over centuries. Regardless, the library's fall symbolizes the fragility of human achievement. 2 pictures scrolls of forgotten plays by Sophocles, unknown works of mathematics, or lost histories reduced to ash is both heartbreaking and haunting. The Library of Alexandria remains less a building than an eternal ideatha dream of gathering all knowledge under one roof. Fact 87. Easter Island. The Silent Moai. Far out in the Pacific Ocean, more than 2,000 miles from the nearest continent, lies Rapa Nui Easter Island. Here, the mysterious Moai statues stand watch, carved between 1400 and 1650 CE by Polynesian settlers. These colossal stone figures, some weighing over 80 tons, were carved from volcanic tuff and transported across the island without wheels or draft animals. Their elongated faces, heavy brows, and solemn expressions create an atmosphere both eerie and majestic. Most Moai face inland, watching over villages as protectors, though a few gaze toward the sea. Theories abound about how these statues were moved, perhaps rolled on logs, or walked upright using ropes in a rocking motion. What is certain is that the construction strained the island's limited resources, contributing to deforestation and societal decline. Yet the Moai remained enduring guardians of a lost way of life. Standing at dusk, as the orange sky fades into the Pacific, one can feel the profound silence of the statues, as if they hold secrets never to be spoken. They are not merely stoned figures, but ancestral spirits, forever rooted to the land of their people. Fact 88. Petra. The rose-red city half as old as time hidden among the rugged cliffs of southern Jordan lies Petra, an ancient Nabatean city carved directly into rose-colored sandstone, dating back to around the 4th century BCE. Petra thrived as a trade hub connecting Arabia, Egypt, and the Mediterranean. Its most iconic structure, Ol Khazna, the treasury, with its grand columns and intricate carvings, emerges dramatically at the end of a narrow gorge called the Sick. Sunlight strikes its facade in shades of pink and gold, giving Petra its poetic nickname, the rose-red city half as old as time. Petra was more than a single monument, it was a city of theaters. Temples, tombs, and ingenious water systems that allowed life to flourish in the desert. The Nabateans mastered the art of channeling water through dams, cisterns, and aqueducts, making Petra a marvel of engineering. But after trade routes shifted and an earthquake struck in 363 CE, the city fell into decline. Known only to locals until rediscovered in 1812 by Swiss explorer Johann Ludwig Buch. Walking through Petra today is like stepping into a dreamscape. Sandstone cliffs glowing under the desert sun, silent chambers carved into rock, and echoes of caravans that once carried incense and spices across the sands. Fact 89. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon. A wonder or a myth? Among the 7 wonders of the ancient world, none captures imagination quite like the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Said to have been built by King Nebuchadnezzar II around 600 BCE. The gardens were described as terraced marvels of greenery rising high above the city walls, irrigated by ingenious water-lifting systems. Exotic trees, flowering plants, and cascading streams created the illusion of a mountain paradise in the heart of Mesopotamia. Yet no definitive archaeological evidence has been found, leaving scholars to wonder if the gardens truly existed. Some believe they were in Babylon itself, near modern-day Baghdad. Others argue they may have been located in Nineveh, the Assyrian capital. Regardless, the image of the Hanging Gardens endures, a lush oasis of shade and fragrance, built to comfort a queen longing for her mountain homeland. Whether real or legend, the gardens symbolize humanity's yearning to shape nature into beauty, to bring the wild into the heart of civilization. They remain a dream, suspended between history and myth, a story as enchanting as the rustle of leaves in a desert breeze. Fact 90. Angkor Wat. Temple of the Rising Sun in the dense jungles of Cambodia stands Angkor Wat, the largest religious monument in the world. Constructed in the 12th century under King Suryavarman II, it was originally dedicated to Vishnu, a Hindu god, before later becoming a Buddhist temple. The temple's grandeur is overwhelming. A vast moat, soaring towers shaped like lotus buds, and miles of bas-reliefs depicting epic stories from the Ramayana and Mahabharata. Angkor Wat was designed with astonishing astronomical precision. The central tower aligns with the sun during the equinoxes, and the temple's layout reflects the Hindu cosmology of Mount Meru, the mythical center of the universe. As dawn breaks, the temple's silhouette emerges against the sky, mirrored perfectly in its reflecting pool. The experience of watching sunrise at Angkor Wat is almost spiritual, the tower's glowing gold. Monks in saffron robes walking silently along corridors, and the jungle alive with birdsong. Though once abandoned to the encroaching forest, Angkor Wat was never forgotten. Today, it stands as a national symbol of Cambodia, appearing on the country's flag. Its scale and beauty remind us of the heights to which human devotion and creativity can rise. Walking through its halls, one feels the whisper of centuries. Kings, priests, pilgrims, and travelers, all united in reverence to something greater than themselves. Fact 91. The Oracle of Delphi, voice of Apollo, high on the slopes of Mount Parnassus in Greece. Near a sacred spring lay one of the most mysterious institutions of the ancient world, the Oracle of Delphi. Around 1400 BCE, the sanctuary was dedicated to Apollo, god of prophecy, music, and light. Pilgrims from across Greece and beyond journeyed to consult the Pythia, a priestess who spoke the words of the god, sitting on a tripod above a fissure in the earth, inhaling vapors that rose from below. She entered a trance and delivered cryptic answers to questions about war, politics, and personal fate. Leaders sought her wisdom before battles, such as the famous consultation before the Persian invasion, when the oracle warned of wooden walls protecting Athens. The latter interpreted as the Athenian navy, yet the answers were often vague, open to interpretation, a reflection of the uncertainty of life itself. The Oracle of Delphi lasted over 1,000 years, shaping decisions that altered history. To imagine the temple, with its marble columns shining in the sun, incense wafting through the air, and anxious supplicants waiting for their turn, is to step into a place where human hope reached out to the divine. Fact 92. Stonehenge. The circle of giants on the windswept Salisbury Plain in England stands Stonehenge, one of the world's most enduring enigmas. Built between 3000 BCE and 2000 BC, this massive stone circle consists of towering sarsen stones, weighing up to 25 tons, arranged with remarkable precision. How prehistoric people moved these stones from quarries miles away remains a matter of debate perhaps. Dragged on sledges, rotted on logs, or floated on rafts along rivers, the purpose of Stonehenge is equally mysterious. It may have been a temple for sun worship, a burial ground, or an astronomical observatory. Its alignment with the solstices suggests that it tracked the movement of the sun, connecting earth and sky in ritual harmony. Imagine standing there on Midsummer's dawn as the first rays of sunlight pierced through the heel stone, flooding the circle with golden light. To ancient people, this was more than architecture. It was a sacred drama of nature, a way of grounding cosmic rhythms into human life. Even today, Stonehenge carries an aura of mystery, drawing visitors who stand silently in the circle, sensing the presence of those who raised the stones thousands of years ago. Fact 93. Machu Picchu. The lost city of the Incas, perched high in the Andes Mountains of Peru, nearly 8,000 feet above sea level, lies Machu Picchu, often called the lost city of the Incas. Built in the mid-15th century under Emperor Pachacuti, Machu Picchu was a royal estate, ceremonial center, and possibly a sacred site aligned with celestial events. Hidden among misty peaks and lush forests, it escaped destruction by Spanish conquistadors, remaining unknown to the outside world until its rediscovery in 1911 by explorer Hiram Bingham. The city showcases Inca engineering brilliance, terraces carved into steep slopes for farming, precisely cut stones fitted together without mortars, and water channels flowing through fountains. Structures such as the Temple of the Sun align with the solstices, reflecting the Incas' deep connection to astronomy. Walking among its terraces, One can hear the whisper of the wind through the mountains, the call of birds, and the silence of a place preserved by nature's embrace. Machu Picchu is more than ruins. It is a bridge to a civilization that harmonized with its environment, leaving behind a site that feels both sacred and timeless. Fact 94. The Terracotta Army. Silent guardians of the first emperor. In 1974, farmers digging a well near Xi'an, China, uncovered fragments of what became one of the greatest archaeological discoveries in history. The Terracotta Army, buried in Tu Tenbi. Sihuang, to accompany Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China, into the afterlife. This vast underground complex contains over 8,000 life-sized clay soldiers, along with horses, chariots, and weapons. Each soldier has unique faces, hairstyles, armor all meticulously crafted as if they were real individuals frozen in time. The sheer scale of the army reflects the emperor's power and ambition. Qin Shi Huang unified China, standardized currency, weights, and even script. But he also ruled with iron authority. The Terracotta Army symbolizes both his greatness and his fear of death, as he sought protection in eternity. Standing before the ranks of clay soldiers today, one feels awe at their silent discipline, row upon row, stretching into the shadows. They remind us that ancient civilizations not only built for life, but also for the mysterious journey beyond it. Fact 95. The Mayan calendar. Timekeepers of the cosmos, the Maya civilization, flourishing from 2000 BCE to 1500 CE in Mesoamerica, developed one of the most sophisticated calendar systems in the ancient world. Far beyond tracking days, the Mayan calendar reflected cycles of the cosmos, weaving together solar, lunar, and planetary rhythms. Their long count calendar spans thousands of years, and the Tzolk'in, a sacred 260-day calendar, guided rituals and spiritual life. Contrary to modern misunderstandings about the 2012 apocalypse, the Mayan calendar did not predict the end of the world. Instead, it marked the end of a great cycle and the beginning of another, much like the turning of a cosmic clock. For the Maya time was not linear but cyclical, echoing the rise and fall of civilizations, seasons, and human lives. Temples such as El Castillo at Chichén Itzá were built with incredible astronomical precision, casting serpent-like shadows during equinoxes, embodying time and architecture. The Maya were not merely tracking days. They were mapping the universe itself, living in rhythm with stars, sun, and earth, in a harmony that feels almost musical. Fact 96. The Library of Alexandria. A lost treasure of knowledge in the bustling port city of Alexandria, Egypt, during the 3rd century BCE, stood what many believe to be the greatest library of the ancient world. Founded under Ptolemy II, the Library of Alexandria sought to collect every book and scroll ever written, becoming a beacon of learning and discovery. Scholars from Greece, Egypt, India, and Mesopotamia traveled there to study. The library may have held works of mathematics, astronomy, medicine, philosophy, and histories that are now forever lost. It is said that ships docking at Alexandria were searched for manuscripts, which were copied before being returned. Imagine long rows of papyrus scrolls stacked on shelves, the scent of ink, and the murmur of scholars debating ideas that stretched across civilizations. Tragically, the library suffered multiple fires and destructions over centuries. No one knows exactly when or how it finally disappeared. But its loss symbolizes humanity's fragile relationship with knowledge. To think of what might have been lost epics, scientific breakthroughs, forgotten history sparks both sorrow and wonder. The Library of Alexandria remains a dream of perfect wisdom, a reminder of how precious the written word is. Fact 97. Easter Island and the Moai statues far out in the Pacific Ocean. Over 2,000 miles from the nearest continent lies Rapa Nui, known to the world as Easter Island. Between the 13th and 16th centuries, the islanders carved massive stone statues called moai. These figures, some over 30 feet tall and weighing up to 80 tons, were transported across the island and set on stone platforms called a. The moai are thought to represent ancestors, chiefs, or important figures, standing watch over the island and facing inland to protect the people. What fascinates scholars is not just their size, but the mystery of how they were moved. Some theories suggest they were rode on logs, while others propose a walking technique using ropes to rock them forward. Over time, ecological strain and social upheaval led to the decline of Moai construction, yet their presence remains haunting and majestic. When you picture the lonely winds blowing across the island, waves crashing on volcanic shores, and the silent guardians staring inland, it feels like a place suspended between worlds, part human creation, part eternal mystery. Fact 98. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon. A wonder in the desert. Among the 7 wonders of the ancient world, none has sparked more imagination than the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, said to have been built in the 6th century BCE under King Nebuchadnezzar II. The gardens were described as lush terraces rising high above the city, with exotic trees, flowering plants, and cascading streams of water. Some accounts claim they were built for the king's wife, who longed for the green hills of her homeland. Historians debate whether the gardens truly existed, as no definitive archaeological evidence has been found. Yet ancient descriptions by Greek historians paint an enchanting picture. A green oasis floating above the desert, where shade and fragrance offered relief from the scorching sun. To maintain the gardens, advanced irrigation systems were required, perhaps involving water-lifting devices similar to the Archimedean screw. Whether myth or reality, the Hanging Gardens symbolize humanity's desire to shape nature into beauty, to create paradise even in the harshest landscapes. They remain a story that lingers between memory and legend, a dream of greenery and golden sands. Fact 99. The Great Zimbabwe, a city of stone in Africa, in southeastern Africa. Between the 11th and 15th centuries, rose the impressive stone city of Great Zimbabwe, built by the Shona people. This city featured massive stone walls, towers, and enclosures, constructed without mortars. Some walls stand over 30 feet high and stretch for hundreds of feet, curving with graceful precision. The most famous structure, the Great Enclosure, contains a tall conical tower whose purpose remains uncertain, perhaps symbolic of power, storage, or ritual. Great Zimbabwe was a thriving trade center, connecting inland Africa with coastal markets. Gold, ivory, and iron flowed outward, while beads, ceramics, and cloth arrived from distant lands like India and China. For a long time, European colonizers refused to believe that Africans could have built such a monumental city, but archaeological evidence confirms its local origin. Today, walking among the silent stone walls, one can feel the presence of a once vibrant society that blended engineering skill with cultural depth. It reminds us that ancient civilizations thrived on every continent, each leaving marks of creativity and resilience. Fact 100. The legacy of ancient civilizations echoes in our world as we close this journey through sleepy facts. It is worth reflecting on how deeply ancient civilizations still shape our lives. From Mesopotamia's invention of writing, to Egypt's monumental pyramids, Greece's philosophy, Rome's laws, China's unification, India's spiritual traditions, the Maya's astronomy, and countless other echoes of the past are everywhere. The roads we travel, the alphabets we use, the governments we form, and the rituals we practice, all trace back to these early experiments in human society. Ancient civilizations remind us that humanity has always sought meaning, order, and beauty. They dreamed of eternity in stone, reached for the heavens with calendars and temples, and told stories that continue to inspire. Even as empires fell and cities crumbled, their wisdom was never entirely lost. It lives on in us. To listen to these stories under the quiet of night is to feel a sense of continuity that across thousands of years, people just like us laughed, worried, built, dreamed, and hoped for tomorrow. And perhaps, in dreaming of their world, we find calm in our own.